Greetings, it's MaxoDiddly here, and today I am going to be showing you how to get user input using a JOptionPane in Java, and then how to validate that user input. So let's get right into it. So firstly, make sure you import javax.swing.joptionPane. Let's get right into how to get user input. So in our main method, we are going to do string input equals nothing. And then we're going to do input equals JOptionPane.showMessageDialog, enter your name. So this string is going to be what's going to store our user input. And then JOptionPane.showInputDialog is going to show like a JOptionPane with a text box that the user can input stuff into, and there'll also be an OK button, so then they can say, right, I finished typing what I've entered, and then the variable input will be assigned whatever the user entered into that text box. Enter your name is going to be the text that appears as well, and it can be used to inform the user what to do. And that's all good and all, but we need to validate this data now. So we're going to do public static boolean, a validate input, string input. So it's going to return a true or a false, because it's a boolean. Validate input is the name of the function, and string input is going to be what we pass into the function. Most likely the user input, and then we're going to validate it. And then we can do return input.length is greater than 5. This is a basic length check. We're checking if the amount of characters in our input is greater than 5. Click the eye up in the corner if you want a more detailed explanation on doing a length check. And this basically will return or send a true or a false to whatever we call the function. So how do we call this function? Well, let's go into that. So we can do if validate input double equals true. So we can use an if statement to check if the input is true or valid. So we do if, and then obviously we call our function, which is validate input. We put input in the brackets because we want to give the user input to the function so it can validate it. And then we do double equals true to check if this function returns a true, meaning it's valid. You can get rid of this if you want to, and by default it will check for true. However, I'm going to keep it here to keep it more readable. And then inside we can do JOptionPane.showMessageDialog, null, and valid name. Null basically means we want to put in the center of the screen, and valid name is the message we want to print. However, what if we want to say something if the input isn't valid? Well, we can put an else statement, meaning if we don't execute what's in the if statement, we're going to execute what's in the else statement. And we can do JOptionPane.showMessageDialog, null, and invalid name. So that's almost it for this tutorial. We're going to save our work and hit play. And it says enter our name, so we'll enter MaxoDiddly. And it says valid name. That's great. Let's try this again, but with Max. Well, it says invalid. Now, those with a keen eye may notice there are more buttons we can press than just OK. What if we hit the X button? Oh no! An error has occurred! This isn't good! We don't want this in our validation. We're literally validating data to make sure it doesn't break our program. Well, don't worry, there's a simple fix for this. So, when we hit the X or the cancel, the value of input becomes null. Because there's no value for it, because the user never inputted anything. Well, in our if statement, we can change it from just validate input equals true to input not equal null and validate input equals true. And the order's important. You need to put the input not equals null before the validate input, because basically, with an AND operator, which these two little symbols make an AND operator in Java, you can't just type AND. With Boolean logic, to get this if statement to be true, to execute this valid name print message, both of these statements need to be true. So if the input isn't equal to null, then this becomes true, and if validate input is also equal to true, meaning the input is a string and it's longer than 5 characters long, then we execute this statement. However, let's say this is false. So input is equal to null. Java won't even bother trying to execute this one because there's no point. Both of these statements have to be true. for a true to occur. But if this is false, we already know overall this is going to be a false. However, if we were to put this after the validate input, there are chances where we're going to get a null input and we're going to attempt to get the length of null, which would also result in an error. But if we do it first, Java's not going to bother trying to put null into our validate input function. Because anytime there's a null, it's not going to then bother with this one because there's no point, because it's going to be false, because it's an AND statement. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry. Just remember, put this first, and then you're all good. So now we're going to try again. We're going to save our work and then hit play. We're going to hit X, and it now just says invalid name, because no name is an invalid name. So the program doesn't crash anymore. So thanks for being a great audience. Be sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more Java tutorials. Thanks for watching.